Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits Motor Chaos. It's your host, Dave. I got line tonight, special guest Mike Buchanan, who drives a alcohol funny car, and that's a front engine nitro dragster, right?
Front engine alcohol dragster. We run the modern day junior fuel, which is alcohol.
Ah, okay, gotcha. So, Mike, you ran at last funny car chaos. Tell us about that.
Well, I guess the most important thing was we had a blast. That is such a fun series to run. I mean, where can you go and have 30 funny cars putting on a show for the crowd? It's unreal. I really enjoyed the atmosphere. And Chris and Tara Graves that promote the Funny Car Chaos just do an outstanding job. And, we've met so many of the guys and gals that run that series we've become friends with. And so I really enjoy it. But that being said, we didn't run that well, but it was good to get out and get some more laps under our belt. We're still pretty new with the funny car and still having some teeth issues with it. So we learned a lot, had a good time, and I got to run one of my qualifying passes next to the War Wagon funny car and another one next to Alan Mittendorf. And I have to admit, that's the first time I've lined up next to a fire-breathing nitro funny car like those two, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a shame what happened to Alan.
Yeah, it was, and I happened to be running him on that pass where he crashed, and it was a pretty spooky view, my view of it. Of course, he was way ahead of me, so I saw everything from behind, and thank goodness for the catching that in the sand trap down there at North Star, and the quality vehicle that he drives, all the safety equipment and everything, kept him safe, and I'm sure he'll be back. They're pretty fierce competitors.
Yeah, he's had such an awesome year with Funny Car Chaos.
Yeah, it's when I started building the funny car in 2017, it was really it just kind of been whispers about it coming up. Actually, I guess I started the car in 16, and in 17 when it came to fruition, that was a big goal to make it down there. And I think we made 3 of the 4 races in 2018, and then this year we just had mechanical issues. It took a long time to fix, and so this last Denton race was the only one we made. So the fields are getting tougher and tougher and tougher. The number 16 spot, I think, was a 4:55, quickest field they'd ever had at Funny Car Chaos. So those guys are stepping it up, and man, they're pretty serious.
So now for the funny car, how did you get the name Hombre on there? How did that name come about?
I had since we'd run the front engine dragster for so many years, I really liked the nostalgia events that we went to, and so I wanted my funny car to look like a car from the early 70s. And so it's a 118-inch wheelbase, and the body's an original early 70s Vega body. So I spent hours and hours going through pictures of nostalgia funny cars from that era, finding paint schemes that I liked. And of course, back then, the funny car had to have a name on it. So kept finding this car that was called the Ombre. I liked the color combination. The gentleman that drove the car, his name was Charlie Thurwanger. He was from Texas, which originally I'm from Texas. I live in Kansas now. And he was kind of the last guy to run a big block on nitro before switching to the Hemi. And we've got a big block on alcohol in our car. So, yeah, I just had some connections there. And so I Googled his name and found a phone number and called him and asked permission to replicate the colors and the name, the Ombre, on my car. And he was so gracious, just so kind and graciously let me use the name, and he's kept up with us. He hasn't been to any races yet, but after a race, he'll text me to see how we did, and I sent him a T-shirt and some of the hero cards. So we stay in contact, and super guy. And I've met several friends of his that come to the races, and we've talked. And so anyway, that's kind of how it came about. And I just like the look of the car and the name, and so that's how that came about.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And the car definitely does look very nostalgia. So I mean, it's a beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful car.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me. We I guess when you're not fast, you have to look good. So that's kind of what we're going for now. And hopefully the speed will come. I've already serviced the car and done some work on the transmission this week. We're going to run it this weekend here locally in Wichita, Kansas at Kansas International Dragways Nostalgia Race. So I'm looking forward to getting out there for that.
Yeah, Kansas International Dragway this weekend. You're doing both the dragster and the funny car, right?
Yes, we're going to have the dragster out. This is actually a leased event. There's a gentleman lives just south of Wichita in Derby, Kansas. His name's Tom Wilhite, and so he has leased the track, and he is promoting the show. And I think this is his third or fourth year. It was rained out last year, but I think it's important for local guys to support local people, and so we're going to actually run the dragster in competition. He's got index classes we're going to run with the dragster, and then do some exhibition passes with the funny car. And a friend of mine from Nebraska, Justin Herbst, who has a Monza body funny car called the Scorpion. I think he's going to be down, and so we'll probably hook up and do a match race with the funny cars there also.
So with the match race with the funny car, would you probably do like 2 passes?
Yeah, I'll probably do a 2 out of 3. It depends on if we don't have the transmission fit. We couldn't get into high gear, and so it just is a little squirt, and they have to get off of it. So if we can get it, if we got the transmission fixed and go into high gear, we'll definitely make 2 or 3 passes with it. So
Then the following weekend on the 12th, you're right back at Kansas City International Dragway again, right?
Yes, it's kind of a funny thing. We had problems at the last race in Denton with the funny car last year, and made some repairs, and just went out to the drag strip to do some testing, and it happened to be kind of a side event to their regular program called the Vegas Against the World. It was the Vega National, so they had Vega-bodied race cars there. Some pretty mild and some, tubbed out, big block. I think they had a couple turbocharged cars there. It's pretty quick little cars. And so they really kind of welcomed us into their circle. And, they treat us like royalty. They gave us a bunch of T-shirts, and we posed the car with the body up, and they parked their cars around the funny car and took pictures, put on their Facebook page. And so they invited us back this year. And so So the 12th will be our 4th weekend in a row racing. So I told them, I said, man, that's a lot of racing to do, And they said, we don't care. Just come out and bring the car and just display it. But we're going to try to make some passes just because they've really been kind to us. And we'd kind of like to repay it by making some passes for them. And just all in fun,
Sounds like a good deal. So now, after the 12th, do you have any other events after that?
It kind of depends on, if we got the car working right. There's one more Funny Car Chaos race the first weekend in November in Odessa, Texas. It was kind of a late add-on. It's a non-points race. and they're going to try a couple little extra tweaks to the program that they're going to have for 2020. And if the finances look okay, we may try to go to that. It's still jury's kind of out on that. We had kind of an unfortunate incident at North Star, the second qualifying pass, as I was slowing down, as the parachutes kind of, de-blossomed and fell to the ground. The wind picked them up and blew them over the guardrail, and it got caught in the guardrail, and it ripped both of my parachutes up. So I had to buy replacement parachutes this week, and that pretty good crunch in the budget. That would, what the parachutes cost would have probably funded a trip to Odessa. So we'll just have to wait to see how things go. If everything's working right, we may try to go out there. So.
All right. So now, Mike, let's turn back the clock now, Mike. And I want to ask you, how did you get into drag racing in the first place?
Well, I think, like so many guys, my dad was into cars. I can remember as a very, very young boy watching him work on cars, and growing up, he tinkered with cars all his life. I had an older cousin that was also about 6 years older than me, and he actually took me to my first drag race. So I attended my first drag race, I believe, in 1965 or 66, and he took me to Temple, Texas, to Little River Drag Strip. So that was the first drag race that I ever attended. And then the next year, my dad took me to a drag race at the drag strip in Arkansas City, Kansas, which is where I actually grew up. And so, my dad and having an older cousin that, when you're 10 and you've got a cousin that's 16 that's into cars, they're pretty much your idol, and so they were both big influences on me getting into cars and the drag racing. And then when I was, it was maybe the summer before my 8th grade year or the summer before my 9th grade year, I actually worked out the drag strip there in Ark City. And the gentleman that owned the track at that time had a old front engine dragster that he had raced years before. Had a 6-cylinder GMC engine in it, and it was probably maybe a 100-inch wheelbase car. But a bunch of us that worked out there, he let us get that chassis down out of the attic, and we sanded it all down. He painted it, and so he let us run that car at the drag strip. So I think I was 14 years old. First pass I ever went down a drag strip was in a front engine dragster. So I guess the hook was set from that moment on. And then as I got into where I could drive, I built a couple of door cars that I raced. And my dad never missed a drag race that I was at. He was very supportive. And anyway, I raced up until 1978. And at the time, I was working as a mechanic in a dealership there in Ark City, and the field of emergency medicine had always just fascinated me. So I sold my race car to pay my tuition to go back to school, and went to paramedic school. And so I worked as a paramedic for 31 years, and then I retired. I didn't have a race car that whole time. I retired in March of 2010 and bought the front engine car in August of 2010 and started racing again.
Wow.
So, and my dad still, when we raced at Mocan or at Tulsa, he would still come and watch. And he was actually in Mocan last spring when we ran there, and it was the end of April. And then he passed away in July of last year. So right up until the end, he was still coming to my races, and he was my number one fan, and I sure do miss him.
Well, you know he's always watching over you each race.
Yeah, I know, and unfortunately, my stepmom, his wife, just passed away last week. Her funeral's tomorrow, and so they're back together again. And you know, uh, he lived a nice long life. He was a great dad. So I was just a lucky guy to have him in my life.
Yeah, my dad died been like 8 years ago now. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah he
Yeah.
he was the one that started dragging me to the drag races when I was about 4 or 5 years old back in the '70s. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, uh, he he taught me a lot because when I was little, what he would do is he'd buy a car that had some mechanical issues and repair it and then sell it. And then about the time I started high school, he started buying wrecked cars and rebuild them. So I learned paint and body from him too. So I wouldn't be able to. I've got a couple of street cars, hot rods I drive, and I do most of the work on them, all the mechanical work and all the paint and body, and one for him, I couldn't afford to have nice hot rods because I couldn't afford it. So he taught me a lot.
So now, when you made that first pass down the track with the front engine dragster, how was the experience going down the track for the first time, Mike?
Well, when I was 14, it was pretty awesome. I probably ran a 12-second quarter mile, maybe not even that fast, but it was pretty cool. And I still, to this day, I love driving the front motored car. Twice the horsepower the dragster does. So it's just a matter of getting used to it, but it sure is different.
So now, what year did you get the funny car?
I bought the funny car in 2016. It was a failed project. A gentleman up in New York had started it. And, in my mind, when I started looking for a funny car, I wanted nostalgia looking body. I wanted something with a newer chassis underneath it because the first dragster we ran was original Jim Davis top fuel car from the mid '60s, and it got to where they wouldn't recert it to go faster than 750. So that's when we switched to Jimmy's old car, and so I wanted something that I wouldn't have certification issues with, and I wanted the polished centerline looking wheels, and so I was looking, and lo and behold, this thing popped up, and it checked all the boxes off, and I'm like, well, darn, I guess I got to go get it. So drove to New York. Me and a couple of buddies. We did a cannonball run out there. We left Tuesday morning at 6:30 in the morning, and I was back home at about 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. We drove to Albany, New York, and back from Wichita, and so it was quite an adventure. I'll never do that again. And then my crew chief, Gary Roshkob, and I worked for several weeks on the chassis. The chassis was rolling, but it didn't have tabs and brackets and stuff like that, and no tin work in it. So we did all that work in his shop, and then I brought it back to my place and painted it and fixed the body on it and got it going, built the engine and stuff here. So yeah, we had, promised Chris that we would come to the first Funny Car Chaos. So that would be Denton in September of 2017. And so we fired the Funny Car for the first time on Wednesday afternoon. We put it in the trailer Thursday morning and drove to Denton. And so the very first time I'd ever sat in the car with the engine running and the body down was on the starting line at North Star. And needless to say, I was a little freaked out. It was just it was a whole different sensation. And so we, barely idled down the track because I didn't know if the car would stop, how it would steer, or what it would do. And so had some brake issues, so we worked the rest of the day and got the brakes better. And then I think Saturday afternoon for the third round of qualifying, we made it a little bit quicker, probably went 70 miles an hour. And I felt like, we'd met our goal. We had made it. So I went and told Chris, I said, we're not going to compete in the eliminations because, we're not ready. We don't have any business racing this car right now. And he said, man, the first round loser gets $500. I said, we're back in. So anyway, we drew Clay Cunningham in the Still Crazy funny car. Super guy. And so I went up and told him, I said, Clay, we're just going to stay out of your way. We'll fire the car after you do your burnout, and we'll wait till you leave before we leave the line because I don't want to, goof up and get in your lane or mess your deal up. And so anyway, that was Funny Car Chaos 1 for us. And actually it was a win for us because we made it. And then so over the winter, the stuff we'd learned there, we got the car a little more sorted out. The body was in primer then and got the wrap put on the body. And so anyway, we had a few issues in Mocan in 2018, and in Amarillo was really our best race. We had car ran good, and transmission was working good, and actually went to the second round there, and then right after that, so my dad got so sick, and the year kind of fell apart on us. So I tell you, I think I said this earlier, but
they got a great thing going with the Funny Car Cast.
Yeah, they do. And I tell you, that little Tara, she can drive a funny car like nobody's business. She is one heck of a driver. She drove
Keith Jackson
Brothers.
Yeah.
High Heaven funny car this weekend. And she's a badass. And the sweetest person you've ever wanted to meet.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what's in store for next year. I wonder if he's going to add some more tracks onto the Chaos. We'll see what happens, huh?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to next year. We already have plans. If we can't get this drivetrain working like we want to, we'll switch to something else. We've got a plan for what we're going to do, and we probably won't try to make all the Funny Car Chaos races. I'm 63 years old, and when I started to jump in for a long road trip was pretty fun, and now it's pretty wearing. My crew chief's 73, and so it's just harder on us and not as much fun traveling long distances. But Chris has already said that he believes there's going to be 2 races at Denton next year, and that's only a 5-hour drive for us. I think Mocan is confirmed, and that's only a 3-hour drive for us. So, those are very doable. And then there's several funny cars in Kansas that, we could probably do some local stuff, match racing also. Download the data from the data logger and pull one spark plug and refuel it, and we're ready to go. So a little different than the funny car.
Of course, next year for the Chaos, the Kenny Singleton with the high risk, he's going to have the target on his back.
Yeah, well, I think he wears a target well because that team is, they've got their stuff together. And that's another guy that, I've met. Some of these guys, these fast cars, to me are kind of intimidating, but Ken's just the nicest guy in the world. And it just amazes me how fast they are with that alcohol car. And they just got their act together and know what they're doing. So, and it just blows me away that, how fast that Mittendorf is now, and the War Wagon, and then these guys, the Detroit Tiger and Buzzy's Bomber that came down from up north. Man, this has turned into quite a show, and boy, the fans got their money's worth at Denton this past weekend. It was an awesome show.
Then you got an awesome young gun, the Dry Hop King, Jordan Ballou. Okay.
Yeah, and listen, they live not too far from us, and another team that's just down to earth. It's basically Jordan and his dad. His uncle helps some, and I think they got one other guy that helps occasionally. And Jordan's mom's there, and his daughter and his wife are all there. And they just such good people, and they do such a good job. And plus the fact he's a dry hop king, that kid can leave on anybody. He's good off the lights. He'll nail you every time. So, but he'd run good all year, and I think he ran maybe a high 460 down there, and that wasn't quick enough to get in the show, and that's just amazing to me that how fast everybody is now.
Yeah. Yeah, Jordan, he's a young guy. He's got many years ahead of him to drag race.
Oh yeah, yep, he does.
So, all right. So now, next question is, I'm kind of lost here. So hold on a second. So, do you have any drivers that were inspirational to you, heroes to you at all?
Well, yeah, as a kid, actually, Bill Jenkins was kind of my hero. I mean, I know he was a pro stock guy, but I just loved his cars, and he was on top of his game back in the early '70s. And funny car wise, and this is another thing that's just really cool is I thought Dale Pullday's War Eagle funny cars were the most beautiful cars I'd ever seen. And so I always liked his stuff. And then being a kid and plus the fact that I've got to meet him and talk to him, so he's crew for Nancy Motter. And so it was really kind of a thrill to get to meet him. And he's friends with Charlie Thurwanger, who drove the original Ombre car. So he actually took some pictures of the car when it was in primer and sent to Charlie and said, well, here's, the beginnings of the new Ombre. And so it's been quite a thrill to meet him. And then being a Kansas boy, I had Kansas guys that I rooted for. John Wiebe was one of my heroes. I've got to meet him. And then R.C. Williams, who ran Top Gas with a twin-engine Hemi car, from Great Bend. I got to meet him. I actually got to sit in his car. And then Mike Newkirk, who has run some of the Funny Car Chaos events. I don't think he ran any this year, but he did it 2 or 3 last year. R.C. Williams helps him on the crew, helps tune that car. So I guess those are probably the people that, I looked up to the most as a kid.
So now, when you take the funny car out or the dragster, how many crew members do you have with you?
Well, right now there's me and usually 4 others. Gary Roshkoff, he started with me with the dragster, and the dragster is actually so simple to run that we ran just him and I for several years. We had a couple of guys that would come help us when they could. And then with the funny car, it's me and Gary, and then we have a husband and wife that come with us, Brian and Kirsten Jacobs. so they're on the crew, and Brian helps Gary. So all the between round servers, Gary and Brian do that, and so I stand and watch, which is hard for me because I do most of the maintenance on the car between races. So to stand back and not do anything is kind of hard on me, but they do a very good job. And then Brian's wife, Kirsten, she kind of takes care of everything else. She gets the food together and, keeps my driving suit laid out and keeps track of it so I don't lose it. And whatever needs to be done, she takes care of. So they're invaluable help. And then just recently, middle of the summer, another gentleman, Steve Bain, started coming and helping us out, and which was nice because Brian had a heart attack a couple weeks ago, so he couldn't go to Denton with us. He's doing fine now, but it was nice to have Steve with us. And then at Denton, had 2 or 3 friends that just work. So we're not too proud to grab somebody and put them to work.
So this Saturday in Kansas, for the racing 2 cars, you're gonna have two crews with you.
Well, we'll all be working overtime, so we'll do the best we can. Like I say, the dragster doesn't take a whole lot of work, and so I will probably recruit a brother-in-law or something that shows up at the track to help out. So that's the good thing about being local is there'll be plenty of people out there I'll know that would love to help out.
So now, Mike, when you're on the track, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions?
Nope. No, I don't. I just when I'm getting ready to race, when I'm strapped in before we fire the car, I just want to be left alone, and that's one of my favorite times of the whole deal. I mean, the burnout and the everything, and it's fun, but I like being strapped in, ready to go. Nobody's bothering me. Your heart rate comes up a little bit in anticipation. You can feel your heart going a little bit quicker. And I love that feeling of I'm ready to go. Let's get this thing going. And then boom, the car starts, and there you go. And that's my favorite part of the whole race is the quiet you have right before you fire the engine and get ready to make the pass.
So now, what are a few favorite tracks that you like to race on?
Oh gosh, I really don't have any tracks I don't like racing. They have made so many improvements to the track here in Wichita that it's a really nice track now. And my old home track in Arc City, they've just reopened it after 8 years off. It's such a nice. We're so lucky in the area we live in because we have so many tracks that are so close. I mean, Wichita is 20 minutes away. Arc City's an hour away. Great Bend's 2 hours away. Topeka's 3 hours away. Have such nice tracks to go to. And then plus the tracks in Oklahoma. We go to Ardmore quite a bit. We've raced at Noble some. And I guess I really hate to pick a favorite, but one of the tracks I look forward to going to the most is the little track in Ardmore, Oklahoma. And we didn't run there this year, but we run there twice a year for the last 7 or 8 years with the dragster. And I just like the atmosphere. People just treat you well, and we always have a good time there. And so, but I like going to new tracks too. I can remember the first time I went to Ennis, Texas, and boy, when you make that turn out of the staging lanes and go under that tower and look down, that was so cool. And Park City will always be home for me, so I like going down there. And but now Wichita's my home, and so we do a lot of testing there. So I guess I really don't have a track I don't like to go to.
Now, you prefer quarter mile or eighth mile?
It doesn't matter to me. Either way, I don't care. Here lately, we've done more 8th mile than quarter, and like I say, it doesn't matter. I do enjoy the little. We ran Tulsa 3 weeks ago. Did the Nitro Nationals with the dragster, so that's the first quarter mile track we've been on for over a year. And I have to admit, that in the 8th we're doing about 144, and in the quarter I think we're at 173 in Tulsa, and that little extra boost of speed is pretty cool.
So, what's the quickest pass you made with the funny car?
I'm not sure I want to say. I think we did 5:04 at 1:30 out of Wichita testing back in August, and that was I took it off early. Again, it didn't shift. We had actually left in second to try to calm the car down on the line, and when it came time to go into high, it wouldn't, so I let out on it. So, my goal for this year was to run a 475 because we've been 476 in the dragster, and I just wanted to say that the funny car was faster than the dragster, but I don't know if that'll happen or not. But hopefully, we got it fixed, and we can get into the fours and work our way down from there.
Okay, so Mike, I know you took some time off of drag racing, but after all the years, what still keeps you passionate about drag racing?
Oh, gosh, there's so many things. I enjoy the building of the car. I enjoy the mechanical aspects of it. This setup we've got in the drive line is something I've never done before, so I've learned a lot about it. I like learning. I like to challenge myself. And I do. I love the speed. There's no question about it. But, doing a big old smoky burnout's fun, and then again, it's just about the relationships. Gary, my crew chief, I barely knew him before I bought the first dragster. I'd met him at a car show, I met him at a swap meet, and then later on that year, he rode with me to a car show, and I found this dragster for sale, and I called him and asked if he'd come look at it. And that's almost 10 years ago. We've worked together, and the friends I've made, and I like being challenged mechanically. Learning something new, trying something, building something. Gary's an unbelievable welder and fabricator, and he's got all the machines that you need to build pieces and parts. So we collaborate together and come up with a plan, and he does the machine work and the welding for me, and that's what keeps me going. And, it's just kind of it's what I wanted to do my whole life, and like I say, I took a break in there, and so I think taking the break made me appreciate getting to do it again. Like I say, I'm 63, and if you told me 5 years ago that I'd be driving a funny car when I'm 63, I'd have laughed in your face. So that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, I've got a buddy up here, lives by me. I believe he's at 81. He's going to start driving a alcohol funny car, Jimmy Montgomery. Yes. Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how old he is, but Fred Barnden in the Play It Loud car, he's in his late 70s, and he's out there. He made several of the chaos races. He may have made all of them. I don't know, but people like that, I look up to, and I think that's part of it. I've seen so many people that they retire and they sit down in front of the TV and the recliner and do nothing, and they're gone in 2 years. And I think it's important to be active physically, and also to keep your mind occupied. And so my mind's been active. My brain's probably scrambled from beating my head against the wall over this, trying to get this funny car to run right. But it does make you think and reanalyze what you've done and figure out what worked and what doesn't work, and find the right person that's going to give you the correct information. And so I think it kind of keeps me young. That and my 4 grandchildren do.
Yep. So, well, Mike, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do this interview tonight.
Well, Dave, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed listening to your other podcast. I know you've done one with Jordan and my buddy Danny Buferris, and so I feel like I'm in good company now that I'm an interviewee now. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. We'll do another one in the future.
Okay, we'll do one when I get the funny car to actually run. and then I can really say I'm a funny car driver. I'm just kind of a funny car herder right now, but when we actually get it running right, I'll call myself a funny car driver then. So,
hopefully that'll be next year.
I hope it's Saturday.
Yeah, or this Saturday, yeah. If not, and you call me, I won't answer the phone. Well,
all right, buddy. Take care.
I wish you the best of luck this Saturday and next Saturday.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
You have a great night, Mike.
Talk to you. All right, talk to you soon.
All right, bye.